Hi guys, so I'm going to try this video again. I had some problems creating it earlier, some power issues, so hopefully this works. What I'm going to do is a review video of this new Cube Control F-Core. It's an entry to the higher end level of wheel, and I'll compare it to the F Pro, which is this one, which is more expensive, so 860 euros versus the F Pro. Well, it starts at 460, so quite a bit cheaper. But if you want clutches, it's 589, and if you want the hub, which I'd recommend, it's 630. So that's what I'm comparing is this 637 versus this 860, and then I'm going to compare it to the Ascher. So, by the way, this works out to about $1,000 Canadian. This version of four paddles with two clutches and the hub. So that works out to about $1,000 Canadian. And in contrast, oops, my other wheel, I'm using my main wheel that I use is this Ascher F64 V3 USB. So this is $1,600, and the other one's $1,000. So that's over 50% cheaper. And is it a good value? Is the question that I'm going to answer today. So first thing I want to do is compare it to the F Pro. Absolutely, hands down, I would take the F Core over the F Pro, and it's not because of the money. Because the key thing that I hated about the F Pro, and I've had this wheel, was the grips. The grips felt like vinyl, and there was just very little grip to them. My hands, I had to really grip really hard so that I didn't slide around. As the wheel heated up from my hand temperature, it got better, I will say, but when you first put it on there, it's really slippery, and even after it's heated up, it's still too slippery. In contrast, the material used on, let me switch views here. The materials used on the F Core are far better material. It's a silicone rubber, and it's not as grippy as the Ascher. So the material is still more slippery than the Ascher. If I could try and quantify that, if an Ascher is a 10 and the F Pro with the vinyl feel was like a 2 in terms of grip level, like that's the order of magnitude, this feels like about a 7. So that's some sort of relative scale, subjective of course, but that's what I'd feel. It's grippy enough that you don't need to use gloves. You can use gloves, of course, but I would be more than fine using this. I don't have to grip too heavy. So that's a key difference. The other thing is that, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to try this wheel was because I'd heard that not only were the grips now back to silicone rubber as opposed to the F-Core, which was that vinyl crap. This was a relatively inexpensive wheel that I felt focused on the important things. A good, comfortable grip, well-positioned rotaries. Like here, the rotaries, the main ones you'd want to use are here, as opposed to my Ascher, the rotaries are down here. Sure. So the rotaries are down here, and that's just a harder.
Go!
Oh, I keep changing this. I keep adding fuel and taking away fuel, so that's why it's telling me to go. Anyway, so the bottom line is that, if I'm driving and I got to reach to here, that's less comfortable than just going like that. So that's why I much prefer these. From a feel point of view, these are far easier to turn, like there's just less resistance. And the F-Core ones, there's more resistance, more defined detent. There's not a lot of resistance, but you're not going to, unless you're doing a flick with them, you're not going to have issues of them malfunctioning, overshooting, or not providing any inputs. So from a rotary's point of view, the F-Core I think is superior. Now, yeah, you've got aluminum here, but who cares? The plastic is perfectly fine. Aluminum looks cool, but it doesn't feel any better to me. The plastic is good enough. And it's the same for these rotaries. Again, it's a bit, obviously these ones are really stiff, and I kind of like these. They're good for ABS and TC because they're position-based. They don't have that on here, but it's fine. I would take these over these for ABS and TC because they're the easy access to them. And but the volume on these, I mean, sorry, the not the volume, the feeling of these is just softer than the feeling of these. These have a bit more detail, which surprised me actually. I was expecting that this would be too easy to turn them. From a button point of view, you know, pushing these, there's a certain feel to them, but the feel on these, on the F core, there's a much more click to them. You know when you've hit these buttons versus these, you know, but it's not as obvious. So I would say overall the buttons have been done better on the F core than the Ascher, which is surprising because, you know, the Ascher is kind of well known for having decent buttons. Where the Ascher is better though is the grip. Like I said earlier, the material is just tackier, and so there's just more grip. Your hands don't want to slide, but the F core is grippy enough that it's fine. The other thing is that the grip design is different. So on the Ascher, it's thinner at the bottom and thicker at the top. Some people like that, some people don't. On the F core, it's got the classic cube control design where it's thicker in the middle, so it's deeper this way. Some find that more comfortable than, say, a design of the Ascher. I find them both comfortable. Maybe this is more comfortable for some, especially if you've got bigger hands. The Ascher, I think, is a little more comfortable when you're wearing gloves because it's got a smaller, thinner bottom part. And when you add gloves, it makes things thicker. I feel more comfortable with gloves on that than I do with this, but you know, these are minor differences. From a shifter point of view, the shifter on the F core is a composite material, which does have a bit of flex. So if you pull that in, you can see it flexes a little bit. Some people may feel, oh, it doesn't feel as good, but it feels fine to me. And more importantly, when you're driving, you're not really pulling that hard that you would even notice that flex. I mean, it's just, it's quieter. So I keep pulling this on and off, but if you listen to the clicks here we go. You only hear the click on the release. You don't hear it really when you're pushing down. It's only in the release, and it's pretty quiet. Versus the Ascher, you know, it's a far clickier feeling because it's aluminum based. You hear it on the downshift or on the compression and on the release, so it's louder. Anyway, so those are some differences. The other thing I would say is different in this is the clutch. You know, they're dual clutch, so they, you know, and you can set the bite point in the software. The software is not so good. It's buggy and inconsistent, and I found it difficult to use. It just didn't register the wheel initially, and then it eventually did. So they've got work to do there. But the biggest thing is the use of, after you've configured everything, you know, does it work okay? And what I found is that no matter what the release is, the bite point is of the second clutch, when I release it, it just engages a little more rapidly than on the Ascher. And because it engages more rapidly, you can sometimes, you know, kind of pop the clutch and it engages too quickly. I'll try it here. And it was fine. So you get used to it, but when I first transitioned from the Ascher to this, it's like I kept letting the clutch out too soon. So it's just something you got to get used to. So the other thing I want to talk about is the fact that this wheel is far lighter than the Ascher. So I haven't weighed it, but it's you notice the actual weight is quite a bit different. And when I first was running my profile, which is this one, and I had the dampening set at 6%. This is SimiCube screw drive. I had the dampening set at 6% and the friction at 6% and the inertia at 11. Initially I thought, well, I just add some more inertia to make it feel like it's got a bit more weight, but I didn't like the feel of that. What I ended up doing was increasing the dampening and the friction to give it a sense of more weight so that it felt similar to what I was used to. And so I created this F-core profile, which is what's loaded now. And the dampening, I went up from 6 to 10 and friction from 6 to 9. I left the inertia where it is. And that gave me a feeling that was similar And until I did that, I noticed that I kept having some issues in certain corners where I would just spin out, and it was just a lack of feeling that I was having in the wheel that would cause me to do that. So it is what it is, but when I made this change, it was better for me. So I was quite happy with that. What I do like about see, there it is again, still a little bit on entry, like it just gets looser. I don't know what it is. It's probably just my muscle memory is used to the Ascher more than anything else, to be honest. But I'm sure that over time I would just get used to the feeling that this produces, and it wouldn't be an issue for me. But I do like the extra width. It's only 5mm, I know, but on a car like this with its front engine, which gives a bit more force feedback, sometimes I feel like the smaller wheels just can't keep up with that sort of force feedback. And so I'm actually looking forward to when the Ascher comes out with their McLaren-based rim, which is 300mm, because it'll give me a bit more leverage in my hands, and it'll allow me to have smoother inputs, and not like I find with the smaller wheels, like you turn and then it goes over, and I don't know, it just feels a bit wrong sometimes. So I'm not driving very well, but anyway, the point is that this slightly larger diameter wheel, like if you go too far, it's not good, but the slightly larger diameter wheel, I kind of like the feel of it personally. Anyway, so in summary, you know, if I was to say, you know, what are the key things to take away from this video, I think the F-Core is a tremendous value. You know, it's over 50% cheaper than the Ascher, and much cheaper than the F Pro as well. I would take this over the F Pro easily because of the grips, and you know, the width of it is also bigger than the F Pro, and I like that as well. The grips are you know, you got more tactile feel, more grip to them, so I think that's beneficial versus the F Pro is just too slippery. The buttons on this are better than the Ascher. There's more, you know, you definitely know when you've hit them, and then the location of the rotaries being up here with your thumbs is way better than the V3 F64 V3. So those are the key things. I think this is a tremendous value, and I'm really happy to see manufacturers starting to create, you know, less expensive wheels. Yeah, okay, so the buttons don't light up, which is nice, and I like that, but you know, they don't need to. And you know, I'd rather them focus on the things that really matter, like the grips and the shifters and the clutch engagement and location and feeling of the rotaries and buttons. Those to me are the critical things, and I think they've pretty much nailed it on this. So, you know, take away from that what you will, but those are my initial thoughts on you know, comparing this wheel to the switch back here to the Ascher and the F Pro. Hopefully that helps. Cheers.